What's up, YouTube? Welcome to my main channel. Welcome to Will X Magic. So today we're going to be reacting to a scary video, and that video is called "The Most Haunted Places in Alabama." We're gonna find out. I want to check this out because I live in Alabama, and I want to see places around the state is the most haunted. I only know one haunted place that's right by me, that's in the vicinity, called Sloth Furnace. That's the only haunted place I know. More like a factory, haunted factory I know. A place I know. So yeah, I'm gonna find out what other places in Alabama's haunted. So I hope you like, share, comment, and enjoy this reaction video. And let's get into it.
US TV streaming time is on Roku. With Roku's new self-service ad tool, it's easy to set up your own CTV campaigns, so you can tap into Roku's leading scale and expand your marketing mix. Roku is the #1 TV streaming platform in the US by hours streamed. Go ahead, check out Roku Ads Manager for yourself.
A desolate forest road where a fearsome beast hunts at night, an aged and overgrown ironworks harboring the spirits of its former workers, and a weathered old cemetery where the dead lurk after dark await on this journey through some of the most haunted places in Alabama. Let's jump right in.
Scary stories. Ooh. Diving right into it. Welcome to Friday night.
Hey guys, and thanks for joining me on this walk through some of the most haunted places in the Yellowhammer state of Alabama. Recognized for its historic landmarks, strong ties to music culture, unbeatable southern cuisine, and breathtaking nature expanses, Alabama also boasts its fair share of chilling ghost stories and old hill folklore that will send shivers down your spine. Are you sure you're ready for this one?
I'm ready as ever.
Our first haunt takes us a short skip to the southwest of Birmingham
Tanah
to
Hill
the Tanah Hill Ironworks. The Tanah Hill Ironworks site, or Tanah Hill Ironworks Historical State Park, which is located near McCalla, Alabama, is an area preserving the remains of the Tanah Hill Furnace.
I've never heard of McCalla, Alabama ever. So this must be like either deep south or deep north.
Furnace and associated outbuildings, which were actually a major supplier of iron for the Confederate Army through the Civil War, and its bounds are widely regarded as one of the most haunted places in the state. Historically, ironworking in this particular locale began around 1830 with the construction of a bloomery forge, and from 1859 to 1862, 3 additional charcoal blast furnaces would produce around 22 tons of pig iron a day, most of which was shipped to the Naval Gunworks and Arsenal out of Selma. Unfortunately for Confederate forces relying on said iron, on March 31st of 1865, the site was attacked by the U.S. 8th Iowa Cavalry, who would burn most of its buildings to the ground, leaving only ruins in their wake. And though several efforts to rebuild the forge were launched, none were successful, and operations wouldn't resume until 1868, when mining was continued under a company by the name of Pioneer Mining and Manufacturing. Much later, in 1952, the remains of the Tanah Hill furnaces were donated to the University of Alabama by Republic Steel. In 1970, they were turned over to the Tanah Hill Furnace and Foundry Commission for preservation as a historic site, and on July 24th of 1972, the whole of the expanse was added to the National Register of Historic Places. More recently, in 1981, the Iron and Steel Museum of Alabama was established to hold more than 10,000 relics from the furnace's heyday. In the present, the Tanah Hill Furnace remains an abundantly popular historic site, welcoming close to 500,000 visitors per year, and offers a range of trails, touring options, educational materials, and much, much more. Sadly, nearly all of the hauntings surrounding Tanah Hill boast rather tragic origins, and begin with several tribes that were forced to leave the area when settlers began moving in. To date,
So we going way
it's said
back.
that the spirits of various tribe members, vengeful over the loss of their rightful homes, remain on
As-
site,
as
and
should
both officials
they
and
be.
visitors to the furnace's bounds have reported ghostly tribal drumming heard on the winds, phantom
Dang.
campfires surrounded by entire parties spied at a distance through the trees that always disappear when approached, and instances in which those who have stayed just a bit too late are actually chased off the premises by shadowy manifestations that fade as soon as they're a good distance away. Easily the
all-
most famous spook story tied to Tanah Hill.
That's like the #1 sighting for like ghosts, seeing shadows and like seeing shadows in like far away. Then when you get close to it, they just vanish. So I think that's like Ghost's #1 go-to move. Take the form of shadow people, which is like wow, that's crazy. That is crazy.
Guards a slave named Isom Hardy, who worked for the furnace master directly, and who was so trusted by his boss, he was actually put in charge of writing into Bucksville to the bank to pick up the wages of the site's workers. One day, however, as Isom made his way from Bucksville back to the ironworks, a group of highwaymen armed with shotguns held him up and robbed him of all of his
dang.
boss's intended wages. Heartbreaking.
Dude got robbed trying to. Wait, hold on. Let's go back. So what was he delivering?
Who worked for the furnace master directly, and who was so trusted by his boss, he was actually put in charge of writing into Bucksville to the bank to pick up the wages of the
Dang, he was on the bank to deliver the money, deliver some money. Got robbed while on the got robbed on the way. Dang, that is just like, man. If it's not safe enough to take some money and put it in the bank, and then get robbed on the way, it's that dangerous just to deliver money. I wouldn't be living here if I was him or them or anybody.
site's workers.
Crazy, man.
One day, however, as Isom made his way from Bucksville back to the
Got
ironworks,
robbed.
a group of highwaymen armed with shotguns held him up
At
and robbed him
gunpoint.
of all of his boss's intended wages.
Dang.
Heartbreakingly, Isom knew his boss would never understand,
Yeah.
and that should he return empty-handed, he was sure to be lynched.
Oh, he never returned.
Instead of facing this grisly fate, when he finally made it back to the forge without saying a word, Isom made his way to the top of the charging bridge above furnace number 1 before jumping in to face total incineration. From
Hold
the time
on.
of this
Hold on. That was your plan? So to avoid getting yelled at the boss for getting robbed, you went to the highest point of a mountain, jumped into an incinerator, and killed yourself. That was the dumbest thing you could have done, man. You killed yourself so you wouldn't have to face your boss. Jeez. That is far away from the last option I would take. I would have just ran away and never came back. That's crazy. That is dumb. Like, that's dumb on his part, bro. That is dumb. Dang. That's crazy. That's dumb.
incident and onward, local legend is told that the spirit of Mr. Hardy remains on site, forever searching for his lost body, and an alarming number of reports detail run-ins with a man bearing his likeness.
And now people got to deal with your ghosts for doing that. Think about that, man. That's dumb.
Dressed in old-fashioned clothing, who has even interacted with the living for a time before fading into nothingness. And on to number 2, which lands us at the northern border of Alabama, at the Maple Hill Cemetery.
I do know Huntsville, Alabama.
Maple Hill Cemetery, which is situated out of Huntsville, Alabama, is a 100-acre burying ground boasting the title of being both the oldest and largest graveyard in its region. Its mounds are shrouded in a slew of Old Hill folklore and chilling ghost stories. Historically, in 1822, this yard's original 2 acres were donated to the city of Huntsville by a prominent local planter named Leroy Pope, and though its oldest graves date back to a few years before its official founding, since gathered evidence suggests the area was utilized as a potter's field for some time before its actual establishment. In 1849, the expanse would welcome a modest expansion of 2 additional acres that included the final resting places of several Pope family members. Through the Civil War, it would act as a place of interment for 187 unknown Confederate soldiers and, some theorize, a handful of Union soldiers as well, who were all killed during the federal occupation of Huntsville. And in 1873, the yard would be expanded yet again, this time by 12 acres, during which 2 entirely new burial sections were plotted. As Huntsville rapidly grew, through the remainder of the 19th and early 20th centuries, several more expansions would transpire in order to accommodate rising death rates. In 1901, what was previously referred to very simply as the burying ground was officialized as Maple Hill Cemetery, and in 1918, automobile magnate Albert Russell Erskine would gift around 12 more acres to the graveyard's cause, after which, in 1920, 3 additional adjoined properties were also acquired, completing what was dubbed the Erskine Edition. In 1924, a further 59 acres of adjacent land would be purchased from James B. Stevens for cemetery purposes, over tripling its total size.
Oh,
in
wow.
1987,
Say what again?
A further 59 acres of adjacent land would be purchased from James B. Stevens for cemetery purposes,
added more land.
over tripling its total
Crazy.
size. In 1987, a private company called Maple Hill Cemetery Incorporated would develop another cemetery right next to freestanding grounds, on lands formerly utilized for an athletics field. And more recently, by 2007, Maple Hill would actually run out of burial space and, in an attempt to create more, would remove a bunch of its picnic sites and some, but not all of its associated playground equipment. But more on that later. In the present, Maple Hill remains open to the public from dawn until dusk, and has grown into somewhat of a local haunt within which teens, daredevils, and paranormal investigators regularly congregate, and rightfully so, as over its many years, both staff and visitors to the yard have reported a crazy number of seemingly supernatural occurrences, including instances of vehicles parked nearby.
You're doing all this stuff in a graveyard, so it makes sense you'll see some ghost or spirit hanging around here. Sense.
Refusing to start. Silhouettes spied roaming the area after dark that are there one moment and gone the next.
Me personally, I wouldn't be doing no investigation in no cemetery. I just wouldn't. Common sense would tell you why. I just wouldn't be doing that.
And objects left on markers sighted moving around on their own, or even floating in midair. Informal investigations of the property have yielded high EMF levels, orbs captured in photography and video, and hits on communicative devices such as Ouija boards, while others have told of phantom
Ouija board in a cemetery? That's on you, partner. That's all I'm gonna say. That's on you. If you're out here doing Ouija boards in a cemetery, you asking for it. You asking to get haunted. That's on you, babe. That's on you.
footsteps and voices, of the constant feelings of being watched or of being followed by someone or something unseen, and of one crypt containing a rocking chair where, if one listens closely enough, they can actually hear the chair creaking back and forth from within. Now, remember when we were talking about playground equipment and I said more on that later? Here's the later. The most famous stories surrounding Maple Hill have to do with a place that's very name could cause nightmares in even the bravest. I'm talking about the legendary Dead Children's Playground within the cemetery.
Based off that name alone, I'm not going there. If I heard a place that's called Death Children, what do they call it?
I'm talking about the legendary Dead Children's Playground.
The legendary Dead Children's Playground? I'm not going there, buddy. If you went there, you did that to yourself. That's your own fault. You did that to yourself. I'm not going to a place named that.
Within the cemetery, one particular play structure remains, and disturbingly, right near this area, activity is said to get quite intense. Those who have viewed the Dead Children's Playground have reported disembodied giggles and the pitter-patter of small feet, swings, and other equipment viewed moving on their own, and have even captured the forms of little children in both photography and video. Number 3 takes us to the wilderness of north central Alabama,
Jack
to the
Cole
remote and
Road,
forested
Hayden,
Jack
Alabama.
Cole Road. Of all of the haunted roadways in Alabama, and believe me, in my research alone, I found enough to make an entirely separate
this
video.
Is a
perhaps
haunted
none is more
roadway.
renowned than the legendary Jack Cole Road, which is placed just out of Hayden, Alabama, and it's surrounded by a slew of jaw-dropping ghost stories and tales of encounters with the otherworldly. Historically, settlers to the Hayden area likely initially arrived circa 1820 or so, after which an early community recognized as Rockland would form, and would derive its moniker from the rocky nature of its soil. As this township grew in population, a number of shops and amenities would sprout up. In 1914, the Louisville and Nashville Railroad would be laid through the area, and Rockland would be re-established as Hayden in honor of a prominent Army officer and one of the founding members of the community. And shortly following, a schoolhouse was created out of a simple one-story log building. Over the years, as Hayden grew even further, this schoolhouse would be upgraded first to a 2-room building, then to a 4-room building, and eventually, through the 1920s, an entirely separate 12-grade facility was established. Notably, Hayden wouldn't be officially incorporated until 1949, and following the creation of Alabama State Route 160 in 1971, which actually charts a path right through the center of town, the locale would welcome another growth spurt. Into the present, while it's certainly expanded since its creation, Hayden has stayed relatively small, and as of 2020, the census clocked in at a population of only 1,342 people, a rather large step up from 2010, which only hit 444. Now, since its earliest days, Rockland, and later Hayden, would be surrounded by a number of small roads and paths connecting various community buildings to outlying homesteads and farmlands. And one of these many routes is none other than Jack Cole Road. Placed just a short walk away from the Moore Cemetery, Jack Cole Road has been around.
This looked like a road I wouldn't take at night by myself, or with anyone. This looked like a road where if you get lost here, it's over for you. It's over. Just by the look at this. Like, come on, man. Like, I'm just by the look of this road, I'm just not taking it. Just like, That's a death trap waiting to happen. That is a one-way ticket to. I mean, come on. I mean, it looks unsafe. It looks unsafe, man.
Since at least the early 1800s and maybe even longer, and is basically a primitive dirt road paralleling the nearby Mill Creek, just a skosh to the south of Blount Springs and north from Hayden. Disturbingly, this unsuspecting forested drive totes a rather ominous reputation, in that since 1890, it has hosted no less than 68 deaths, and possibly many more, 60 of which were people claimed by a cholera outbreak in 1900, and the remaining that were taken by all sorts of random events including accidents, wild animals, and even murder. Not surprisingly, the whole of this stretch is rumored to be haunted by countless
staying away
spirits.
from this place.
It has grown into a tourist attraction and local proving grounds where teens and daredevils from all walks of life venture. The whole of this weathered old route is rumored to hold the spirits of all those who died along it, and multiple motorists have reported strange voices heard through car radios, instances of vehicles outright dying, leaving those within trapped miles from help, and full-bodied apparitions spied through the nearby tree line, glowing faintly and dressed in garbs spanning the eras. Disturbingly, the woodlands surrounding the road are rumored to harbor cult activity and worse, and numerous ritual sites and apparent animal sacrifices have been located about, with some even telling of run-ins with threatening hooded figures that chase any who cross their paths.
No, hooded figures,
famous stories surrounding this.
No. I'm not dealing with no hooded figures. No. Staying away.
Stretch tells of the Beast of Jack Cole Road.
Beast of Jack Cole. There's a creature in there called the Beast of Jack Cole Road. No. That said that alone speaks for itself.
This beast is a monstrous
Nope.
bipedal creature covered in hair with a massive
canine
head that's been known to chase vehicles at surprising speeds. Now, before you take this legend too lightly, just imagine being out there in the middle.
I don't care if it's a legend, rumor, myth, reality. No, I'm not going. I'm staying far, far away from this place.
The night, having this thing sprint at you, and
Explain
like
it how
mentioned earlier,
you want.
having your well-maintained vehicle spontaneously stall out. So yeah, there's a reason the locals here warn against driving through the area after dark. Okay, and on to number 4, which lands us in the...
This one, I live close to this place. Yeah, I done heard stories about Sloth Furnace. You know, the only reason I heard about it because like every October, you know, they do like Halloween stuff there. They set up stuff like I've never went in my whole entire life of being in Birmingham. Never went to Sloth Furnace. You know, in later years, I read YouTube. I looked on YouTube and saw stories like how it's like a hotbed for ghost activity. It's a hotbed, that place alone. You know, and it's like just never went there. Nope, never went there. Not going to. And I live right close to this place, so I'm not going there. Passed by it like more than a few times, more than that. So I know about Sloth Furnace.
Magic City itself at the ever legendary Sloth Furnace. Sloth Furnace, which is located out of Birmingham, Alabama, is a massively renowned pig iron blast furnace that honestly probably really needs no introduction, as it's about as famous for its dark history as it is infamous for its long list of purported hauntings and supernatural activity. Historically, the furnace's legacy begins back in the late 1800s with its creator and one of the founding members of Birmingham being Colonel James Withers Sloss, and his desire to promote railroad development into Jones Valley. In 1881, James would form his own business, the Sloth Furnace Company, and would set to work on the creation of a massive blast furnace, the likes of which had never been seen by the region. Following the completion of two 60-foot Whitwell-type furnaces through April of 1882, the site would perform its first blast, after which the facility would produce 24,000 tons of high-quality iron through its first year of production alone, that would actually go on to, in 1883, win a bronze medal at the Louisville Southern Exposition. In 1886,
I didn't know that.
Sloss would...
I didn't know it won a gold medal. Jeez. So it looks like back then, Sloth Furnace was popular. That's good to know. Well, not now, but back then, it's good to know.
Retire and would sell his operation to a group of wealthy investors who, in 1899, reorganized as the Sloss Sheffield Steel and Iron Company. In 1902, new blowers were installed. In 1906 and 1914, new boilers were added. And from 1927 to 1929, the furnace was completely rebuilt from the ground up using modernized equipment. In 1952, Sloth Furnace was purchased by the U.S. Pipe and Foundry Company. In 1969, it was sold to the Jim Walter Corporation, and due to mounting concerns regarding the air quality through the region and the U.S. Clean Air Act, just 2 years later, the site was forced to cease operations, after which it was donated to the Alabama State Fair Authority. In 1972, Sloss was added to the National Register of Historic Places. In 1976, the property was documented for the Historic American Engineering Record. In 1977, the city of Birmingham would vote on and approve a $3.3 million bond for the facility's preservation. In 1981, the site was officialized as a National Historic Landmark, and in 1983, the whole of the furnaces were opened up to the public as a museum. In the present, Sloss remains open to the public and hosts a range of events, including touring options of both the historic and paranormal.
Yeah, but I do know about that.
Rightfully so. Now, while I've covered the history portion of
and like I said, it is being used for like what I know is Halloween activities. You know, so it's crazy. It's good to.
Things. One
the
thing
more
I've
you know,
intentionally omitted for the purpose of maximum impact in this next portion is that of the actual furnace's work environment. Conditions within Sloss were absolutely brutal, with work areas regularly well above.
I read on YouTube that it was a harsh place.
100 degrees, and employees literally worked to death.
Yeah.
From some falling into the actual furnaces and burning up into nothing, to others who were literally sucked up into gears in the machinery. Violent fatalities were a commonplace here.
This was a violent place to work. Violent place to work.
And many suspect the restless spirits of those lost within may still linger, with reports of phantom footsteps heard from empty areas, ghostly voices and cries that drift on the winds, and instances in which machinery seemingly starts up of its own accord, even though it's been dormant for half a century. A bunch of investigations, even by high-profile TV shows, have been performed across the site, and have yielded high EMF levels, chilling EVPs, orbs captured in photography and video, and hits on all sorts of devices, including thermal grids, spirit boxes, Ouija boards, and more. And several have told of run-ins with the spirit.
Don't know why you're doing Ouija boards in 100 places. Don't know why.
Of various workers who linger for moments before disappearing in the blink of an eye. The most famous story surrounding Sloss tells of one of its former overbosses being a slag wormwood. As legend has it, Slag was notoriously harsh to the men who worked under him, and managed to kill off dozens, maybe even hundreds before he was brought to justice. And by brought to justice...
Of course! Like, you gonna get us killed? No, you ain't. We taking you to court. That's an evil boss right there. If he's getting y'all killed, it's crazy. That's insane.
I mean, his workers finally got fed up and
Yeah.
literally threw him into the furnace to face the same fate.
Oh, dang. They said, screw it. You gonna get us killed? Nah, you're the only one who's gonna die tonight. Took this man and put him in a furnace.
Sentenced so
Took this man and threw him in a furnace and killed him. Dang. Wow. No way. That's insane. What?
many too before. To date, the ghost of old Wormwood is said to linger across the campus.
I have heard of this guy's name. Wormwood. He still lingers. Dang. The fact that they said I had enough, picked him up as a group and threw him in the furnace. Wow. You must have really sucked for them to do that to you. That's crazy.
Prefers to roam about after dark and can get quite aggressive at times, pushing or hitting the unsuspecting while leaving bruises or scratch marks.
Then his ghost is trying to hurt. Okay. Alright, man. Gonna hurt me because your crew, you're an evil piece of crap. You gonna hurt me.
Last but not least, our fifth and final
Moundville
heart lands us at one of Alabama's oldest landmarks.
Moundville Archaeological Site. Moundville, Alabama.
Being the Moundville Archaeological Site. The Moundville Archaeological Site, which is placed in none other than Moundville, Alabama, is a historic Mississippian cultural landmark situated right along the Black Warrior River that totes 29 platform mounds around a rectangular area that formerly acted as a plaza for various ceremonies and politics, and its bounds are believed to be tied to a range of ancient hauntings and age-old ghost stories. Historically, the Moundville Plaza was initially established and utilized by said Mississippian cultures from around the 11th through 16th centuries, after which it would lie dormant for a time up until the arrival of European settlers through the area. In 1848, the expanse was mentioned by E.G. Squire and Edwin Hamilton Davis in their work called Ancient
kind of name is that?
Monuments of the Mississippi Valley, and toward the end of the 19th century, a fairly complete map of the region was drawn up under American chemist Nathaniel Thomas Lupton, leading through the remainder of the century to several small-scale excavations that were conducted under the Bureau of Ethnology. The first significant archaeological investigations of Moundville would be held through the early 20th century under archaeologist and writer Clarence Bloomfield Moore, who would initially dig the area in 1906, and over the years, his primary findings and records are actually still used by archaeologists to this very day.
Oh, wow.
Sadly, over the subsequent 20 area in 1906, and over the years, his primary Bureau of Ethnology. The first significant archaeological investigations of Moundville would be held through the early 20th century under archaeologist and writer Clarence Bloomfield Moore, who would initially dig the area in 1906, and over the years, his primary findings and records are actually still used by archaeologists to this very day.
Dang, man. So he set the tone for archaeology. That's wild. Man. A little man. His findings are being used by archaeologists to date. That's wild. It's wild, man.
Sadly, over the subsequent 20 years or so, looters would ransack Moundville on multiple occasions, and would steal a number of artifacts while destroying some of its structures. And by the mid-1920s, groups of concerned citizens would band together with the Alabama Museum of Natural History in order to purchase the site, in an effort to better preserve its integrity. By 1933, the old plaza had been officialized as the Mound State Park. By 1938, it would have welcomed a slew of modernizations, stabilizations, trails, and more under the Civilian Conservation Corps, and by 1939, the locale would be re-officialized as the Mound State Monument instead. In 1964, the monument would be declared a National Historic Landmark, and in 1966, it would be added to the National Register of Historic Places.
Oh, wow.
Sadly, however, these accolades would do little to protect the site, and in 1980, a group of professional thieves would break into the Erskine Archaeological Repository at the park.
Dang. They didn't skip nothing, man. It wasn't protected. This place wasn't protected from thieves. I will tell you that. I mean, some places in America are not protected by from thieves. Yeah, that's something I learned. Jeez.
And would steal no less than 264 pottery vessels, which was a
That's
little
it?
over 1/5 of the vessels collected under the Alabama Museum of Natural History. Despite rigorous investigations, none of these artifacts would be seen again until
Dang.
2018 when
Dang, they took over 2,000 of like pots. I think pots or pans, panery, never recovered. Crazy. Okay.
three were anonymously returned. More recently, in 1991, the expanse would be re-officialized once more as the Moundville Archaeological Park, and in November of 2021, the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Review Committee would find evidence of the park's link to 7 Muskogean-speaking tribes, who have since petitioned for the return of 5,982 human remains and
Oh
funeral
wow,
objects.
dang.
In the present, Moundville remains open to the public and offers a
Dang,
range of interesting
that's crazy.
landmarks, self-guided touring options, and educational materials to any with an interest. Chillingly, the whole of Moundville is rumored to be haunted by a host of apparitions ranging from its initial Mississippian inhabitants up into more recent manifestations, and both visitors and officials who frequent its bounds have reported extreme cold spots and otherwise hot weather, instances of cell phones and other electronics going dead even on full charges, and
Dang.
encounters with menacing
Well, that's a second favorite thing of ghosts. Turn off your phone. Just cut off your phone. Make it have a dead battery. This place is like haunted, just like the place itself is haunted. Jeez, the land is haunted.
shadowy figures that have so much as chased the living from the property before disappearing in the blink of an eye.
Dang.
Multiple paranormal
Definitely don't want no one to come in their home. Jeez.
investigations
Crazy,
have been
man.
held across Moundville over its years, and research has yielded high EMF levels, crystal clear EVPs, and hits on both thermal grids and communicative devices such as Ouija boards and spirit boxes, while others have told of the sightings of orbs or strange glows that are spied atop various mounds, and that always seem to disappear when approached. Interestingly enough, numerous accounts detail instances in which the whole of park grounds are enveloped in an otherworldly fog that some describe as glowing, and those present have reported encounters with figures barely visible through the mist that sometimes surround entire parties, while others report phantom footsteps and voices emanating from the central square, often accompanied by other sounds of civilization, as if the proud culture that once thrived there is continuing their daily lives from just beyond the veil. Now, like some of the other native haunts we've covered, one prominent legend surrounding Moundsville tells that taking anything from its bounds, even so much as a small pebble or a handful of dirt, might incur the wrath of a deadly curse, one that results in
I'm staying away from curses. So you won't never see me get cursed because I'm not going there. I'm not. And if I do, no, just not going there. So I don't have to worry about that at all. Don't have to worry about it.
sometimes fatal misfortune. Ironically, some believe this is why various artifacts have actually been returned through the years, and
Yeah,
several who have taken lesser items from the site have
Yeah, I would hope to return it. Because I do not want to get cursed.
actually sent them back days later, with apology letters attached, explaining uncanny and even
Dang, these dogs had these people apologize. Like, you better return my stuff or apologize. You don't want to get cursed.
dangerous bouts of bad luck. Lastly, the full-bodied apparitions of various people in traditional native garb have been observed after dark, often accompanied by the ghostly strains of music or drumming, and have been known to impart
Trying to have a
warnings
party.
to those who don't belong, and wisdom to the few who share their sacred bloodlines. Thanks for joining me on this journey through some of Alabama's most haunted places.
Man, wild. That is wild. So, yeah, good to know that there's there's a lot I need to learn about. There's a lot I didn't know about Alabama. That there was more haunted places in Alabama than I thought. Just like crazy. Think about it. Like in the area I live, there's a lot of haunted places that just I would never have thought about it until I watched this video. So, crazy.